Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 1. Now let's start the fanfic. Have you ever wondered why people found the idea of masks so appealing? Granted that a mask has several uses, it is nothing more than an empty cage to keep yourself in and others out. You don't have to take my word for it, I'm only telling you what I think, not that it matters anyway. My opinion never really mattered. Everything that came out of my mouth, every word, every sentence, was treated as background noise, like the sounds of a running brook or winds rustling along the trees. It just didn't matter. I was just another soldier, someone with a name for convenience and with the duty of laying down my life at any given moment. Uzumaki Naruto. That's the name I grew up with, the name that I had grown accustomed to, and the name that made people spit whenever it came up. That's right, I am Uzumaki Naruto, a Konoha ninja with a Chunin rank. I have been denied my Junin promotion continuously for the last 3 years. It was only a miracle that I made Chunin, seeing as how they couldn't send Genins to the front line. They deemed my skills worthy enough to be Chunin but unworthy for Junin. I knew deep down inside, I had the skills to be in Anbu, but I never let my anger get the best of me. I wouldn't let it slip past my mask. This was the very same mask that I wore for 26 long years. On the outside, everyone saw a bumbling idiot, an incompetent fool, and I was more than willing to play the part. I considered it my punishment for what happened 5 years ago. Everywhere I went, I always kept it on, never once taking it off. I couldn't. This was the only path open to me, the path of a Jinchuriki. Once, a long time ago, it was considered an S-rank secret. Speaking it would mean absolute death, but now, it was no longer a secret. The council couldn't keep it under wraps anymore, and by morning, the entire population knew. That was why adults would sneer and spit at my feet whenever they saw me. It was also why children threw projectiles at me, rocks, tomatoes, cabbages, and anything their parents could give them or whatever they could get their hands on. I didn't have to read their minds to know what they were thinking, the look on their face said it all. Filthy Jinchuriki. Bastard demon. I could hear them, all the curses and insults whenever they mumbled it under their breath. It was the curse that Kyuubi marked me with. It began as a gift, the demon explaining that with enhanced hearing, I would be able to hear the enemy from miles away, but it came with a very steep price. At that time, I admit, I was desperate. Akatsuki began its move, already capturing all of the Jinchuriki but one. Me. Their goal was to arrive in Konoha and tear the village apart looking for me, but I wasn't there. Even though they found my whereabouts, they still tore the village apart. Even after I rushed back and defeated Pain, I was still blamed for the mayhem and destruction. Sentenced to 3 weeks of outpost duty near the borders and my Junin promotion suspended indefinitely. No matter how harsh their punishments were, I took it, with the same mask on my face. I never took it off, not even when I watched my team get caught in an ambush, when they died in my hands, because I know, I was going to be blamed for it. Years after the defeat of Pain, the members of Akatsuki went their separate ways, their numbers dwindling down. It was decided that after the Pain catastrophe, I was to be labeled as a danger hazard, a demon waiting to break out and wreak havoc, and so, I was to be kept under watch at all time. Everywhere I looked, I could sense Anbu everywhere, their eyes trained on my every movement. They thought I wouldn't be able to sense them, but I knew better. I just ignored them, staying in my apartment located in the slums of Konoha. It was the best I could do, after being evicted from my old apartment. No landlord would rent me an apartment, no matter how high or ridiculous they made their rent. It was only after Kakashi stepped in that one landlord eventually gave me a place. No one dared to oppose the Hokage. There was only one word to describe my apartment: horrible. Located in the poorest section in Konoha and being right at the village walls, it was always overlooked by everyone. I was alone here, my neighbors avoiding me like the plague. I didn't mind the solitude, no one wanted to talk to me voluntarily anyway. I convinced myself that it was for the best. As my cold blue eyes stared at the ground, the building's shadow appeared, an indication that the sun was rising and morning was here once again. I sighed and pushed myself off my mattress, stretching my arms before going to freshen up. That's right. I didn't own a bed, only a mattress with a messed up pillow and a blanket that didn't even cover my body. But that wasn't the bad part. I could sleep on the floor or in a tree with no problem. The problem was the utilities, because since this place was located at the edge of the slums, there was no plumbing or electricity here. I had to leave my apartment and go off into the jungle, to my regular spot along the river to freshen up and bathe. Somewhere along the way, the Anbu would disappear, because they know as well as I do, I wouldn't leave the village. Feeling the icy water splashed against my skin made me shiver slightly. I took the moment to enjoy the sensation, the frosty liquid dripping down my face. The cold and I were similar in many ways. Both of us were one of a kind. There was only one cold and there was only one Uzumaki Naruto. With warmth, there was warm and hot, each holding a different meaning, but with cold, you were either cold or you weren't. It was as simple as that. I heard my stomach grumbling, telling me that it was time for breakfast or lunch. I didn't remember what time it was, after spending so much time out here in the jungle. All I knew was that I was hungry and it was time to eat. Being stuck as a chunin meant living with the shitty pay and the amount of missions that a chunin was allowed to take. To me, food was a luxury. If I could afford it, then I would eat. If I can't, then it's too bad. I learned that lesson a long time ago. As I leapt out of the Shinoman, aka the forest of death, I felt the sun shining on my face, the warmth that I missed. Taking a deep breath, I found myself enchanted with an aroma that I also missed. The smell of freshly made ramen almost made me drool. Keyword, almost. Giving myself enough distance between the ramen stall and my landing, I figured that a 5-minute walk would be enough to build my appetite. As I walked closer, I saw that the old man actually had customers, which meant that it was lunchtime. I felt myself feeling uneasy as I walked into the stall, feeling their stares on me, but it didn't matter. I turned to them and smiled, greeting them before taking a seat far in the corner. There were 2 men sitting there, obviously ninjas, turned and glared at me, like I was ruining their appetite. I didn't blame them, it happened every time I walked in here. People would get up, complain about how everything went to hell, and in the end, Tuki would end up apologizing and the customers would walk out without paying, gaining a free meal on my expense. It disgusted me how people can behave like this, but all I could do was apologize and smile. If I did anything else, it would make matters worse for the old man. I don't feel like eating anymore. And so it begins. The bigger of the 2 stood up. Akego, I believe his name was, is a well-respected junin in the community and he usually got his way. Is there a problem with the food, sir? Tuki asked, already knowing the answer. I think he only did it as an attempt to calm his customers down. Yeah, the meal tastes like crap. I can't eat this. Seeing the hurt look on the old man's face, I turned around and started walking out, not once looking back. I couldn't stay here. I was the reason why the old man was losing money. I was always the problem here. I can hear the old man yelling my name, telling me not to leave, but I just waved my hand, dismissing his call. He continued yelling, but I continued walking, doing everything in my will to not give in to his pleads. I casually threw him a fake smile and disappeared with a shunshin. I was foolish to think that today would be the first time in a while that I can have ramen, but I was obviously mistaken. It looks like I wouldn't be having lunch today either. Tsuki was the only restaurant owner that actually considered me a normal human being, unlike the rest of the population. Even when I was little, before I knew about the Kyuubi, the old man welcomed me with open arms. He didn't give a damn about what people thought. That kind smile never left his aging face as I grew up. Throughout my adolescent years to my adult years, Tsuki always stuck by my side, but I come to realize that he too, also had a mask. Being someone who went through life with a mask, I could tell that his business was slowly falling apart. Many times, he would claim that he didn't need customers like them, but I knew the truth. He did. The old man wasn't making enough now to get by, and it was my fault. No one wanted to eat at the same place that served a demon. It was considered taboo. My resolve only grew stronger, and I was determined to leave the man alone so he can gather some decent business. On some occasions, I found myself standing on an empty rooftop, staring off into the streets. I could see potential customers cautiously peeking in, making sure the coast was clear. If the demon wasn't there, they would enter and have a good time, but if I was there, the place was emptier than water in a desert. Once I realized what the problem was, it was clear to me that I had to stay away, relying on myself yet once again to survive. Making my way across rooftops, I ignored my hunger pains and headed for the Hokage Tower, hoping to get a decent mission to make my living arrangements easier for the next month. For the past few years, my missions were frequently solo missions. I wasn't given team missions anymore, which made Kakashi comment about how childish they were being. Having my former sensei turned Hokage was something I never expected. He was Hatake Kakashi, the copy ninja, the laziest ninja in Konoha. While his strength was on par with the legendarily Sanins, his attitude never changed. From one man that wore a mask to another, he was able to recognize my mask instantly. I had one throughout my childhood, always putting on the mask of a fool. He kept telling me to drop the act and be myself, but he never saw reality through my eyes. If he did, he wouldn't be proposing such a ludicrous comment. As I progressed through life, he saw that I was hiding deeper and deeper into my mask, and he thought that one day, I was going to be buried under it. In an attempt to pull me back, he set up weekly gatherings for the former rookies. At first, it was tolerable. They were somewhat eager to see me, but this was before they realized what I am. I will admit, I almost wanted to come out of my mask, but soon after that event, everyone disappeared on me. It was like those last few months never really existed, and then, life just continued on like normal. Kakashi continued to push for the weekly gatherings, but it wasn't the same anymore. The rookies showed up, but their expressions were guarded, and I knew why. It was because the news of the events was leaked into the public, and they knew. Everyone knew what happened that day, and the looks in their eyes said volumes. I stopped showing up, and no one ever bothered to contact me, to find me. Even the Anbu were hesitant to watch me. I knocked on the mahogany door, ignoring the cold glances the secretary was giving me. I could hear her swearing under her breath, cursing about my presence. "Come in." Kakashi's lazy voice echoed through the door. I easily pushed it open and saw Kakashi frowning under his mask. "I'm here for my weekly mission." Kakashi didn't look up, which was weird. He always greeted me with a genuine smile, but today, his mood was different, and my guess was that piece of paper that he had on his desk. "Kakashi." I spoke up again, raising my voice slightly. His eyes rose up, looking at me and back at the paper before letting out a small sigh. "Long time no see, Naruto. Is something the matter?" I asked. "Did someone fall into a ditch again?" My attempt of humor was rather hesitant because I wasn't sure if this was the appropriate time for jokes. With no actual friends, I was often alone with my thoughts and without someone to converse with, I wasn't comfortable in situations like this. But luckily, my poor attempt brought some amusement into Kakashi. I heard a small chuckle from him as he pushed the folder over. Read it and tell me what you think. He didn't have to ask me, I was going to accept it either way. My financial situation wasn't great, but it wasn't poor either. With the amount of money I have now, I would lucky enough to make it to the next month. My eyes quickly glanced over the report, picking up words such as rice, trapped, enemies, and help. I'll take it, I answered without a second thought. Kakashi sighed as he leaned back into his chair. You didn't read it. Those words came out more as a statement instead of a question, which surprised me. Of course I read it. I answered back, not willing to let my former sensei get the better of me. I just smiled and shook my head. I read enough, Kakashi. What else is there for me to know? Have I taught you nothing, Naruto? Always look underneath the underneath. Kakashi replied with slight anger in his tone. This is a damn suicide mission. Those fools are sending you out on a suicide mission. They want you dead. So it finally came to this. I had my suspicions that my last few missions were somewhat suicidal, and if anyone else but me took them, they would have surely been dead. If Kakashi thought I was going to be shocked, he was mistaken. I merely smiled through my mask, which caused the man to frown even more. It's not a joke, Naruto. I don't want you to take this. I can get you other missions. I can do something else for you. Kakashi was one of the few people that didn't resent me for who I am or what I did. He understood my pain, and that was something I was grateful for, but I couldn't accept his pity. I swore to myself a long time ago that I would never accept pity. A true ninja would never turn down a mission, especially if it benefits the village as a whole. I replied, quoting the words of a wise man. Kakashi's eye only narrowed when he recognized the sentence. The third was naive. He had no clue what he was saying. If he was alive to see you now, he would beat you into the ground senseless. I grabbed the piece of paper and signed my name, showing the Hokage my signature as proof that I accepted the mission. It doesn't matter, Kakashi. I have a team to save. Just be careful, will you? Defeat in his voice, Kakashi pulled the piece of paper back and added his signature to the paper as well. It doesn't have to be like this, Naruto. But it can't be helped, I replied before leaving the office. For the first time, I didn't see a great man sitting behind the desk. I saw a tired and exhausted man. I quietly shut the door and disappeared in a shunshin, making my way back to my poor apartment. It didn't take me long. I was somewhat eager to leave the village. Being in here, I was only trapping myself, but out there, I was finally free from the hatred, the glares and cold shoulders, even if it was just for a limited time. Having grown up alone, I had never once taken a blessing in disguise for granted. My apartment wasn't something that I could call home. Hell, I wasn't even there all the time. I spent most of my nights at the training grounds, sleeping against a tree whenever I exhausted myself training. Training was the only thing that distracted me. Jiraiya pointed out a valuable fact to me. He said that no matter how shitty life is, how defeated and miserable I get, the sweat I get from training was the one thing that would never betray me. People might betray you, but your fists would not. To this day, I lived by his philosophy. He was more than a mentor to me, he was a fatherly figure. In some ways, he was like the dad that I never had. He looked after me like his own son, but when he passed away, I felt my world shatter. Entering through the door, I walked past my empty kitchen, grabbing the only few things that I own. There was really nothing in this apartment. It was plain and depressing. I didn't feel the need to decorate because no matter what I did, an apartment in the slums was an apartment in the slums. The mood couldn't be fixed. I took out a set of kunais, the only things that were worth money in this apartment, but even if someone came and stole these kunais, they wouldn't get much out of it. These kunais were in poor condition, made out of cheap metals. I couldn't afford the normal quality that most ninjas had. I purchased this set on one of my travels and polished them myself. The weapons store here in Konoha wouldn't do business with me, which was troublesome at times, but I made peace with it. During my missions, I would pilfer the weapons of my enemies, adding them to my own arsenal. Doing this was frowned upon, but I didn't mind. I needed the weapons since 1010 made it clear to me that as long as I was still breathing, I was never allowed to step foot inside her store. Of course, she said it in a harsher tone, but it didn't matter. If that was her wish, then I will completely abide by it. Putting the kunais into my weapon holster and tightening the bandages around my ribs, my eyes wandered over to the picture frame sitting next to an unopened letter from Gaara. It was a picture that meant the world to me. On it was people that I considered part of my family. It was a picture of me and the two Sanins, Jiraiya and Tsunade. I sighed as I picked up the picture frame, wiping off the dust. I couldn't help but feel a pang of loneliness in my chest as I stared into it. I didn't have any other pictures in this place. This was the only one, so I considered it special. I wasn't like other people that had a billion pictures of their friends and family. I only had one, but it was more than enough. I remember Tsunade pulling a reluctant Jiraiya as we posed for this family portrait. The Toad Sanin was rather wary of the idea, but after some threats, the man eventually agreed. No matter how much those two argued, I couldn't help but smile at the relationship they had. It was clear to me that there was something more than friends behind it, but I never questioned it. It wasn't my place. I put the frame back down and decided to visit Tsunade, who resided in the village after much persuasion from Kakashi. Originally, Tsunade was to take up the mantle of the fifth, but she wouldn't have it. She opted to be the head of the hospital, which left Kakashi the only other choice. I chuckled at the memory. The Cyclops ninja threw a fit, cursing at the slug Sanin for running away from her destiny. She merely giggled and wished him the best of luck. Even Jiraiya pitied the new Hokage, promising him a brand new Ika Ika paradise soon. I took one last around and walked out the door, locking it in case someone decides to break in. With a quick shunshin, I made my way over to Tsunade's mansion, which was located behind the Hokage monument. Apparently, she inherited it from her grandfather when she returned to the village. I silently landed on the roof and I saw her enjoying a cup of tea while reading over some medical files. I stealthily jumped down, but before I could sneak up on her, she let out a chuckle. "I know you're there, Naruto. You could never sneak up on me." "I could if I really wanted to," I childishly replied, sticking out my tongue. It's been a month since I last saw her and she was doing well, from what I seen. She was always bugging me to learn a medical jutsu, claiming that it could save my life one day, but I always declined, telling her that with my rapid regeneration, I could recover from almost anything. That was the excuse that I always gave her, but I suspect that she knew better. The real reason why I refused to learn a medical jutsu was because I didn't deserve to. I have caused so much pain and suffering that it was better off if I had died, and I think she knew it too. "Why didn't you decline the mission, Naruto?" "Crap. She found out." I cursed the damn Cyclops, always sticking his nose in my business. I know that he meant well, but it just wasn't cool. He ratted me out to my mom. I'm the only one who can save them, Tsunade. I know it, you know it, and he knows it as well. Tsunade sighed, knowing that the argument was lost. "You know the anniversary is coming up, right?" she asked, changing the subject. "Yeah, how can I forget? I burned the day into my memories. You think that pervert is doing well up there?" She snorted. "I bet he's overwhelmed with joy, peeping at women to his heart's content." Silence fell between us, both of us not knowing how to continue on. The subject of Jiraiya's death was still a sore spot for me, and I took it pretty hard when I found out that pained him in battle. It's in 3 weeks, will you please come with me this year to his grave? I know it would make him happy to see us go together. I shook my head. No, I'll go myself. I'm sure that you'll want some time alone with him, and I don't want to intrude on it. The real story wasn't that I didn't want to go with her. It was because I'm prohibited to go visit the heroes' cemetery, a place where it was reserved for the heroes. They wouldn't allow a demon to tarnish the ground of heroes. Every year on April the 14th, I would stay in my apartment or training field, reminiscing about the good times that I had with Jiraiya, and at night, I would sneak into the cemetery and pay my respects to the man I considered my father. You don't have to go visit him alone, Naruto. You have to stop hiding behind that mask of yours and let people in. My eyes widened as her words took me by surprise, but I quickly pushed it back behind my mask. You're not the only one who misses him, Naruto. I usually come back at night to give him some sake, and that's when I see you sitting there, lost in your thoughts. I could see the sadness on your face, and I worry about you, Tsunade explained. I sighed, nodding my head. I was partially relieved that she only saw me sitting there. If she had gotten a closer look, she would have noticed that on that day, my mask was completely off. I would never tell anyone, but during that time, I was able to truly be myself. I'll think about it, I answered before walking away. I'll visit again when I return. Tsunade nodded. Be careful, Naruto, I don't want to lose you too. I just smiled, knowing that she worried about me, and that was good enough for me. I'll see you on that day, Bachan. I wondered if I made the right choice by accepting this mission. In my current state, I was having an internal conflict between my mind and my heart. My mind was telling me that there were no right or wrong choices, only a path that existed for someone like me. My heart, on the other hand, was telling me to turn back, to abandon this mission and take another. I often wondered what the difference between your mind and heart was. Scholars claim that your mind and heart acted as separate entities, but when they acted as one, that's when you become whole. To someone like me whose heart had been crushed and stabbed, literally, this was meaningless advice. It made me think back to all those times when I heard Junin's lecture their genin teams about the difference between a missing nin and them. Most of the kids would answer with village and loyalty. Those were good answers, but none of those were the correct one. The correct answer was a heart. If the answer was indeed a heart, then where do I fit in with that category? Do I belong with them? A rhetorical question, but I long for an answer. I long for a place where my heart could truly belong. For the past 5 years, I lived in solitude because it was the only punishment fit for my crimes. At first, I didn't want to do it. I was expecting my friends to tell me how stupid I was being, but their words never came. The first few days were torture. My mind was screaming at me to release myself from my own hellish prison, but I stayed strong. My heart was telling me not to give up, not to lose hope. I convinced myself that after a few days, the friends that I grew up with, the comrades that I went on missions with, and the people that I had dinner with, would come and tell me that I was being a fool, but they never came. In the end, it would only take one person to break my chains: Shino, Hinata, Sakura, Ino, anyone, even Sasuke, but none of them came. I stayed in my apartment for a month, my naive spirit still strong, but with each passing day, my mind was weakening my heart, telling me that it was time to face reality. I continued to sit alone in the darkness, waiting and waiting. The only person that came to visit was Tsunade. I remembered her eyes portraying her sadness. When her sorrow-filled voice reached my ears, my face reactively returned a smile, hiding my pain from her, but honestly, she was the last person I expected to see. She urged me to move out of my apartment and into her house, but I bluntly refused, telling her that I was perfectly fine here. I knew I was being stubborn, but I couldn't go live with her. I would only end up bringing pain and misery to those around me. Tsunade eventually lost her patience and yelled at me, asking me how long I was going to mope around. I gave her another smile, telling her that I wasn't moping, merely recovering. She yelled in frustration, and that was when Jiraiya stepped in. He recognized the symptoms right off the bat, but it was only because he had gone through a similar process in the past. He offered me a chance to continue training, and I nodded my head. We agreed that we wouldn't leave the village this time, so we opted to work in the Forest of Death. Day after day, I pushed myself to the limit, encountering death more times than your average ninja. Even when Jiraiya called it a day, I trained myself to the point of exhaustion and then some more, his words echoing through my head. My fists were burning not from the physical pain but from the pain of my heart. The pain of loneliness. The pain of abandonment. Throughout the months, I used the training as an excuse to hide myself. I found my skills growing at an exponential rate, and during my spars, I was even pushing Jiraiya to his limits. Sometimes, Kakashi would take a break from his Hokage duties and would come to my training sessions, but I think it was because of another reason. Just when I thought everything was going to be okay, fate had a funny way of screwing with me. Having pain show up in Konoha was the last thing I expected, but Jiraiya knew from the start that he would be coming here to look for me. The bastard ended up immobilizing me with some powerful drugs so I couldn't participate in the fight. I didn't know what happened until Tsunade found me an hour later. She explained to me what Jiraiya did, and all I saw was red flashing before my eyes. I forced her to tell me where that bastard was, but her tears gave it away. She didn't have to say a word, I knew what happened. Jiraiya met Pain one-on-one and they fought, only to have Pain standing as the victor. When the news finally settled, my chakra flared to an insane level, powered by my emotions. I arrived at the scene of battle, Pain standing on Jiraiya's fallen body with a smirk on his face. My actions that day were unforgivable. I threw away all my moral restraints, all the beliefs that I had, because my enemy was responsible for the death of the man I considered my father. Ever since that day, Uzumaki Naruto ceased to exist. In return, it was only a demon hiding under human flesh. The entire village became distant with me, and the council used any kind of excuse to rid themselves of me. Their favorite method was sending me out on missions that normally required a team of skilled junins. They knew I couldn't refuse. That's why I was currently headed to the Rice Country, located deep in Otogakure. I didn't know why a team of Konoha ninjas were there in the first place, but I was about to find out. The travel time between Konoha and the Rice Country was about 4 to 5 hours, but I got there in half the time, courtesy of my inner demon. My nose stung from the smell of blood. I stopped myself from going any further, landing on the ground as I surveyed the surrounding area. The smell of blood composed of both fresh and old, indicating that there was a fight around this area recently. Razor-sharp vines shot up from the ground without warning, nicked me on my neck. I uttered out a growl as I stepped away. Now why is a single Konoha nin walking out here alone? Have you decided to save yourself and abandon your teammates? A muffled voice spoke out. I shook my head, smiling towards the voice. My enhanced hearing was able to pinpoint the man's location. I'm only here to do a job. Then consider yourself fired. Several ninjas leapt down from the trees, attempting to surprise me with an ambush tactic. I was pretty impressed with their chakra control, being able to completely mask their presence within the thickness of this forest. They landed safely on the ground before rushing towards me, their kunais poised to gut me like a fish. I rolled my eyes and easily finished them off. When they jumped out from their hiding spots, I could easily sense that they were chunins at max. Their chakra levels were the justification. One by one, I plunged my own kunai right between their eyes, ing them instantly. I felt no remorse. Taking their lives came as easily as breathing. The last thing that they saw was my smile. When the last ninja fell to the ground, I noticed that their headbands didn't have the Odo symbol. These were ninjas from Kusagaku. Now why were Kusa ninjas here? I pondered to myself as I made my way into the village. Hanabi's pav. My arms felt tired and I was breathing heavily. It didn't take an expert to see that I was exhausted. My muscles were groaning in pain and my fatigue was almost at its maximum. I didn't know what compelled Anko to sign us up for this mission, but I suspect it was the free rice sake that was produced right here in this village. When she told me that it was an easy B-rank mission, I was hesitant but agreed to go with her. What I didn't know was that this village was under attack by foreign ninjas for the past week. When we arrived, we were assaulted by a massive rain of kunais, barely escaping with our lives, but Kay wasn't so lucky. Several kunais managed to hit her in her arms and one in her leg, rendering her immobile. We used the last of our supplies on the second day and we were desperate for backup. I know Anko sent one of her snake summons on the first day and we're now on the third day, still praying for that backup. Are you giving up on me already, princess? Anko's voice whispered into my ear. I growled at her, not in the mood for her joking. We were caught in an ambush right outside the village and she was joking around with me. Does this woman not fear death? Calling me princess at a time like this, I huffed my breath, not bothering to dignify her with a response. The princess thing still stuck with me, even after all these years. Back when I was still a fresh genin, I was stuck up and so wrapped up in my own little world that I failed to notice others around me, thus granting me the nickname, Ice Princess. I guess it was because I grew up in an enclosed environment. I wasn't allowed outside to have fun like all the other kids. The only thing that I knew was what my father and the elders taught me. One of the first things my father taught me was that weakness was not an option. To survive in this world, you had to be strong, stronger than everyone else. I grew up resenting my older sister, seeing her as someone unfit to be the heiress of the Hyuga clan. She was so kind, so gentle, and yet, so weak. When I was 13, I secretly saw Hinata Onisama training with Neji Nisan. I thought the match was going to be over in a second, but to my surprise, my sister came out as the victor. Even though they gave it their all, the way Hinata Onisama moved amazed me. I didn't think she had the skills to beat Neji Nisan. After that night, I was confused. How could someone who was so kind and gentle be so strong? I couldn't figure it out, so I challenged her to a spar the next day. I had to find the answers with my own fist or else, I'd never know. My sister, the kind and gentle spirit that were loved by everyone, turned into a different person when the spar started. I couldn't land a single hit on her. It was like hitting water, and by the time the spar was over, I finally understood why Hinata Onisama was strong. She wasn't weak as my father saw her, she became strong under her own will, and I wanted the same thing. I no longer hated my sister. No, in fact, I grew to respect her. She developed into the strong person she was today by herself, whereas I grew up under the guidance of my father, who I considered one of the strongest in the village. As I grew older, I also outgrew my naive thinking process and realized that there were others out there that were stronger, like Neji Nisan. I was surprised when my father consented to let me try out for the Chunin exams, and even more surprised when I was immediately put on a team. Apparently, Anko was the only Junin instructor with a team that was missing a person. Unluckily or luckily for me, she was also the one who beat the whole stuck-up princess thing out of me. In some sick and twisted way, I guess I admired the woman. She was everything that I strived to be. Outgoing, adventurous, strong, and this was something that I'll never ever admit to her. Despite her attitude, she was a reliable friend once you got to know her. Over the years as I worked with Anko, I transformed from a stuck-up-the-nose girl into a reliable and respected Junin of Konoha. I was usually seen with Anko and Kurenai, who were my friends as I advanced through the ranks. With the occasional insults from Anko and helpful advice from Kurenai, I nailed my Junin exam with ease. I counted 7 Junins. What about you? Anko quietly whispered. I activated my Byakugan and I nodded my head. I also counted 7 Junins, each hiding away from us. Think we can take them? I asked. Of course, who the hell do you think we are? Some rookie team. Anko snorted. I thought I taught you better than that. Shinei. Move. Anko shouted, pushing me away as a husky man landed between us. If we stayed there for a second longer, we were as good as dead. That was a pretty huge sword the man wielded. I found myself stumbling forward, unable to rebalance myself. Another ninja, someone leaner, swung a long scimitar towards me and my body automatically dropped to the ground, narrowly avoiding the blow. I saw a few pieces of my long black hair slowly drifting down in the air and I growled. I took pride in my hair and this bastard was going to pay dearly for snipping it. I quickly twisted my knee, using my left foot as a pivot and slipped into my taijutsu stance, the Jukin. Before I could give the bastard a taste of my strength, a huge chakra signature erupted and was approaching this direction at a fast pace. I couldn't tear my eyes away from my opponent, being as close as I was, it was dangerous. I didn't recognize the signature either. It felt a bit demonic, but I was also getting a humane feeling as well. Within seconds, I left a hand on my shoulder and before I knew it, I was being shoved away. I rolled and skidded on the floor, unable to stop myself. By the time I stopped, I looked up and gawked at the person who shoved me. It was him, the very last person I expected to see and the very last person I wanted to see. Uzumaki Naruto. You. What the hell do you think you were doing? I had him. I snarled out, not caring if we were in the middle of town or in the middle of battle. I don't care where we were. He was something that I will absolutely not tolerate. It was because of him that everyone in my family suffered. It was because of him that the rest of Konoha mourned, and it was because of him that I lost my older brother. I will never forgive him, never in a million years. I had seen the pain and destruction that he caused to the people around him. I could personally vouch for it. 5 years ago, he took Neji Nisan away from us, from everyone. I had never seen Lee-san and Tenten-san shed so many tears before. Even Hinata Onisama was weeping. The pained look that she had on her face whenever she saw Uzumaki, it was just too much for her to bear. I wasn't there at the time, but from what everyone told me, Neji Nisan's death was because of him. They said that it was Uzumaki thatted him. I couldn't verify it myself because ever since that day, Uzumaki seemed to have disappeared, only appearing at the most random moments. I swore to myself that if I ever saw him, I would get revenge for Neji Nisan. I would make him wish that he hadn't lived. But here he is, standing right in front of me, with a smile on his face as blood dripped out from the side. Wait, blood? Why is he spitting out blood? I heard a small cough and that's when I noticed that there was a spear piercing him from the front. My eyes widened when I saw another weapon piercing him from the back and my eyes widened even more. The two ninjas tried to yank their weapons back, preparing for the final blow, but they couldn't. Uzumaki somehow grabbed their weapons, preventing them from doing so. I couldn't understand how one man could still have the strength to fight back. I know I wouldn't be able to do so. Was this his power? With one quick move, I saw the two ninjas being thrown up into the air and 2 blue spirals appeared on his bloody palms. Was this the famous Rasengan that I heard so much about? As the ninjas came down, he shoved the blue orbs into their chest, instant lying them. I didn't need my Byakugan to know just how powerful that technique was. Uzumaki then dropped to his knees as he forcefully pulled the weapons out. I winced as he pulled each one out. My face was probably green and my stomach was ready to puke, but I couldn't show my weakness here. My mind was screaming at me to get revenge, but my heart wouldn't move. You should smile more, Uzumaki managed to utter out with that stupid smile on his face before dropping to the ground. Naruto's pav. As I walked into the village, I could still smell the stench of blood lingering in the air. I rubbed my nose several times, trying to get the smell out, but I couldn't. Just when I entered, I saw 3 more foolish ninjas coming at me. They thought they would come here and expect me not to defend. What a foolish world they live in, but too bad for them, I wasn't going to die here. I hadn't found my answers yet. My eyes flared up with chakra. I could feel the Kyuubi's demonic chakra trying to take control, but I pushed it back. It was bad enough that I suffered humanity's wrath, I didn't need to suffer a demon's wrath either. Gathering enough chakra, I flipped through several hand seals and unleashed a whirlwind, embedded with my chakra. Over the years, I learned to effectively manipulate my element, adding them to my techniques, making them twice as deadly. Those fools were dead before they dropped to the ground. From far away, I heard Anko yelling something before she pushed another person that I didn't recognize aside. It was only when she got into a taijutsu stance when I recognized her. Hyuga Hanabi, the former heiress of the Hyuga clan. Neji's words echoing through my head. Those were the very last words that he spoke to me before he died in my hands. Naruto, it's your duty now to protect my family now. It was a memory that was still clear to me, even after 5 long years. No matter how many times I replayed the moment, it was my fault that he died. I lost control of myself during the battle and he paid for my mistake with his life. My body went into shock after realizing what happened and I wanted to puke my guts out. It was after that even that I swore to myself that I would never make the same mistake again. Horror was written across their faces as time stopped for every single person witnessing that battle. My fist slowly pierced through Neji's body and by the time I regained consciousness, he was already gone. No one aside from me knows what happened. They all think that wide Neji, and no matter how many times I tried explaining myself, the less people listened. All they saw was my fist going through Neji's lifeless body. It was the ultimate taboo, ing your own comrade in cold blood. It was an unforgivable sin. So why was Neji smiling when he died in my hands? I made a solemn vow that I would protect his family, no matter what, and that was why I stayed in the village, for his memories that I endured such harshness and cruelty, and it was for his memories that I would not break his request. My eyes watched in slow motion as Hanabi readied herself to counterattack, but what she didn't see was another ninja sneaking up behind her. Without thinking, I summoned an insane amount of chakra to my legs, giving me the extra boost that I needed to reach her in time. Within seconds, I propelled myself forward, shoving Hanabi away and taking the blow for her. You, what the hell do you think you were doing? I had him. I heard her snarling the words out at me. I couldn't help but smile, knowing that I deserved them and more. Not once have I visited the Hyuga compound to offer my condolences. I guess in a way, I was afraid to face them, afraid of how they would react. Her words were soon drowned out as I braced for impact, the spear and sword piercing through my body one by one. I coughed out some blood as pain shot up from my body, a searing pain that I never felt before. It was a poison, that much I knew, but Kyuubi should be able to counter it and heal. I could feel them trying to retract their weapons, but I wouldn't let them. With every ounce of strength left in my body, I threw them high into the air and I held out my palms, managing to summon 2 Rasengans. I waited for them to drop down before plunging the deadly jutsu into their chest, ing them instantly. I then dropped down to my knees, ignoring the huge pain that went through my body as I yanked the weapons out. I turned my attention to Hanabi as she sat there watching me, her face turning a little green. I could feel my body giving out and my vision wavering. She was the last person I would see before I black out, the look of confusion, awe, and curiosity. You should smile more, I managed to utter out before blacking out completely. Hanabi's pav. He just collapsed in front of me, blood spewing out from the wounds he received in battle. I shivered slightly, thinking that it could have been me lying there. Was he even alive? I crawled over slowly, checking for any signs of life. I put 2 fingers on his wrist and felt a slight pulse. I didn't know why, but I let out a small sigh that I was holding onto. Was it possible that I was feeling a bit guilty? No, it was not possible. I hated this man for what he did to my family, to what he did to his friends. There was absolutely no way that I was feeling guilty. It wasn't my fault that he jumped in, taking the blow for me. It wasn't my fault that he wanted to play hero and save me. Now, he's lying on the ground, possibly on the verge of dying, and I had no freaking way of saving him. Even though I always wanted to brag to Anko that I had men falling left and right whenever I walked past them, but I couldn't. Men wouldn't fall left and right for me. They would do it for people like Anko or Kurenai, but certainly not me. Men looked at me like I was some sort of fragile princess and they suffocated me with their affection, which was the reason why I never had a long-lasting relationship that went past a month. I would be so lucky if it went past the first 2 weeks. Without warning, something huge dropped from the skies and I let out a small scream. I know it was un-ninja-like of me, but this was something big. When it landed, I felt my body jumping into the air as an aftershock of its landing. But what could have been so heavy that it caused me to jump up like that? I hesitantly got into my taijutsu stance, preparing to defend myself from any possible attacks, and maybe him as well. I just had to see if I could protect him. I mean, it wasn't the end of the world if he died here, right? I tried to convince my heart that if Uzumaki died here, it wouldn't be my fault, but it wasn't listening. I just sighed as I stood in front of him. My conscience was probably jumping for joy at my bold move. I heard a loud coughing noise as it took a step. Stupid Aniki. That's the last time I'm going to let him summon me like that. I heard it speak. Aniki. I thought. What did it mean by that? My heart literally stopped when the dust cleared, giving me a clear view of the creature. Standing before me was a giant frog. I think it was a frog, except that it was dressed in a blue yukata. When it turned its gaze towards me, I quivered under its glare. Even though I was from one of the 4 noble houses, this toad had a majestic aura surrounding it and I couldn't help but to look away. Damn it. Now I gotta carry your sorry back to Konoha, Aniki. I heard the frog whine. It was only then that I was able to put the pieces of the puzzle together. The frog was referring to Uzumaki as Aniki. Then, could it mean that Naruto was its summoner? I only heard legends of the frog summon, knowing that the Yondaime and Jiraiya of the legendary Sanins were able to wield its awesome power. My eyes tore itself away from the frog and looked at the man lying on the ground. Could he really be its summoner? The frog took a sniff of air and his face turned from a whiny pouting one to an angry one in less than 1 second. What the hell is this? It roared out. I couldn't find my voice to answer it. I was too scared to do otherwise. When it couldn't get an answer out of me, it turned towards Anko. Oi, you psychotic bitch. What happened to Aniki? Oh, that was a big mistake. I had seen guys in the past that called Anko a psychotic bitch and they hadn't been the same since. Anko managed to finish her two opponents with ease and Shunshin over. She growled at the frog before looking at Uzumaki. Take a closer look, Hanabi. Her voice was dead serious and I did as I was told. There was no place on the field for subordinates that didn't follow orders. Anko had drilled it into our heads ever since we were genin. My bloodline was a very handy tool to have. It allowed us to see the body's chakra pathways and detect the flow of chakra, which was why some of the Hyuga became medic nins. I didn't see the normal blue chakra that resided in our bodies. Instead, I saw a purplish color flowing through his system and my eyes widened when I realized what it was doing. It wasn't just flowing through, it was flowing through and clogging it up. I quickly relayed the information to Anko and the frog. Well, what's wrong with Aniki? The frog asked. It has to be some kind of poison. I don't recognize it. If what Hanabi said was true, we don't have much time to lose. Anko shouted. Get Naruto back to Tsunade stat, you overgrown toad. If he dies, I swear, I'll feed you to my snakes. It wasn't a frog, it was a toad. Seriously, I would have never able to tell the difference between them. I like to see you try. I never lost a fight against a snake. Never have. Never will. The toad boasted. With ease, it scooped Uzumaki up in one arm. Go with Gamakichi, Hanabi. Tsunade might need your eyes to figure out what's wrong. I nodded my head and walked over, but Anko stopped me before I got any further. She pulled me back and whispered into my ear. Don't let him die, you hear me, Hanabi? He's important to me. Why? I asked, but Anko gave me the, I'll explain later, look. Fine. I replied before getting on Gamakichi. Just what was the connection between Anko and Uzumaki, and why did she tell me to bring him to Tsunade instead of the hospital? Surely the medical staff there was competent enough to treat a poison wound, right? I pondered these questions to myself as the toad rushed us back to Konoha, leaving me with so many unanswered questions and the big mystery that was Uzumaki Naruto. Okay. This is just weird. Let me tell you, I've seen a lot of things in my career as a ninja, but this one takes the cake. I would have never imagined myself riding on the back of a giant toad with the last person I expected to see. Nothing could have prepared me for this moment. I would be lying if I said that I haven't been dreaming of the day when I would meet the man responsible for Neji Nissan's death. But here I am, riding on his toad, rushing towards Konoha, to save his life. Don't you just love the irony? Just thinking about him makes me want to lash out and hit something, or someone, but that wouldn't be wise. There was an awkward silence between me and the toad. I could feel it tensing its muscle up, almost as if it were expecting me to attack. It also didn't help that it kept looking at me every other second. Judging me with those eyes of his. What? I asked, feeling irritated. Why do you keep looking at me like that? I don't like you. The toad responded, clear and straight to the point. Don't think for a second that I won't you if you do anything to Aniki. I scoffed. Do something to Uzumaki. What the hell was I going to do? Jump over while moving at an incredible pace just to take my revenge? I may be skilled, but I'm not that good to pull that off. Why does it matter to you, Toad? I didn't ask him to do anything. It was by his own actions that he's in this condition. I coldly replied. I was never one to take shit from anyone, not even Anko. While she may have beaten the Ice Princess personality out of me, she also taught me to be my own person and to stand by my beliefs. I was just a little firecracker waiting to explode. I heard it utter a low growl, like it wanted to take a swing at me, and I just smiled back coyly. No need to respond, we both knew that I won that round. I shook my head and my eyes drifted down to the person on the toad's webbed digits. Uzumaki Naruto. I could see the blood soaking through his clothing and a pang of guilt hit my chest. No matter how much I tried to deny that fact, it was he who showed up and saved my life. If it weren't for him, it would have been me lying on the ground in that village, bleeding out with Anko screaming at me, doing everything she could to save me, while telling me that everything was going to be okay. I shook my head, trying to forget that it wasn't me and it was him. If our roles were reversed, I would have been dead, probably seeing Neji Nisan by now, but it wasn't. It was him, the village Jinchuriki. The container of Kyuubi, rumored to be the most powerful of all the Bijus, lying there waiting for death to come. I knew all about him. Everyone in our village did. We all knew of the things that he had done and the sins that he committed. The pain and suffering that he caused the village and the injustice that we had received. It just wasn't fair. As far as I could tell, Uzumaki had no relations to anyone in the village. I think pretty much everyone was split into two groups. Those who hated him and those who didn't want to be seen associating with him. I'm pretty sure there were a certain few who considered him a friend. I believe Kakashi is one of them, but then again, he was always giggling at those perverted books, so I couldn't be sure. I often complained to Anko and Hinata about why he was still alive. Why wasn't there a public execution for the man who caused us so much suffering? Anko told me that I was still a naive bitch who still needed to grow up. I should have been offended by her comments, but I knew that she didn't mean it. Nothing gets past these eyes of mine, and I knew she was hurting inside. I just wish I knew why and what her relationship was to him. My sister Hinata, on the other hand, was a different story. Along with the rest of her friends, they seemed to share the same opinion with the rest of the village, that they all hate Uzumaki. They seemed to resent him for what he did, and to this day, I agreed with them. That he was a demon, lying in the dark, waiting for its chance to take revenge on us. It was a perfect cover-up. He used the attack as a chance to get back at us, and get back at us he did. Half of our forces were demolished that day, ninjas and civilians alike. I closed my fists tightly, thinking back to the pain that he caused my family. I didn't know if the toad was very observant or I was very obvious, but he noticed something right away. Don't even think about it, bitch. I hear the toad muttered. Gamakichi, I think that was his name. How dare he tell me what to do? Does he even know what kind of vile and disgusting things his summoner had done? Did he know just how much my pride hurt just by having this bastard save my life? I gritted my teeth and ignored him, my eyes hardening and focused on Uzumaki. You're one of them. I don't need to know you to know that you're a spiteful bitch. Gamakichi stated. I don't know why he sticks around. He shoulda just left. People like you aren't worth dying for. I saw red. Everyone had a trigger point and the stupid toad just pushed it. People like me. What the hell does that mean? If anyone should be dying, it should be him. I yelled back, my anger taking the better part of me. Why shouldn't I have the right to hate him? I would be doing everyone a favor if he died. No one would miss him. I could feel myself shouting everything that I had to the toad, not caring if he swatted me like a bug. Listen here, you bitch, Gamakichi yelled. I could feel the anger in his every hop, like he wants to stop, but I know that he can't. Every minute that he wasted on me was a minute lost on him. In fact, I wanted him to stop. You have no idea what kind of hell Aniki has been through. Do you even know who he is? Does anyone know the kind of man he really is? I held back my tongue. There were so many things that I could say, but I didn't. I couldn't, not when I know he was right. I didn't know him personally. All I knew was that he was the man responsible for Neji Nisan's death. A man I swore I would get revenge on, not just for me but for my entire clan. That's what I thought. You humans are quick to anger, quick to judge but slow to see what things really lie underneath the story. The toad took one giant leap, clearing a few hundred feet at once, and it took all of my concentration to stay on. I was not going to let him get the better of me. I'll swear one thing though, if Aniki doesn't make it through this and it was because of people like you, I promise you that you'll have another war on your hands, but this time, it won't be with humans. Is that a threat? I yelled, holding on for dear life. He was doing this on purpose. I knew he was. If you think he's so great, why don't you tell me what really happened? Tell me that he wasn't responsible for what happened 5 years ago. Despite the wind rushing past my body, I could have sworn that I heard a sigh coming from his mouth, but no words ever came. Naruto's POV. Darkness. Nothing but darkness. Why'd I even bother trying? I feel like I'm fighting a losing battle here. My body is telling me to give up, to just let go, but my heart won't agree with that. It's pushing back, fighting against all odds, but what good will that do? If the fates wanted me dead, I wasn't going to fight it. I've caused enough pain and suffering to people. I'm just so tired. Would it be wrong for me to just close my eyes? Tsunade, Kakashi, Neji, Jiraiya. I just wish someone would tell me what to do, what I can do. I often dream about what life would be like if I didn't have the Kyuubi inside of me. Would I have been treated normally like everyone else? I shook my head. I'm not that lucky. It also doesn't help that I keep seeing her face in my memories, the look of surprise and curiosity directed towards me before I blacked out. Why did it have to be her? No, it was probably better this way. Let me die by her hands. At least she would have her revenge on me. Just let me be done with this. I'm just too tired to continue on. Just let Hanabi be the one who does it. It's only fair since Neji died by my hands. I had no idea what compelled me to rush in like that. Was it because of that promise that I made to Neji? That I would protect his family no matter what? Or was it something else? I don't know. There were just some questions that you can ask but you'll never get the answer to. As I'm standing here thinking, I realize that everything's black. It's not like darkness has ever bothered me. It's all but a welcomed companion ever since I've been alone. But why is everything black? Shouldn't Kyuubi have healed me by now? I shouldn't have even fainted from those attacks. I survived when Sasuke rammed his Chidori through my chest, but I can't walk it off with a couple of weapons stuck in my chest. What kind of messed up shit is that? Kyuubi. I yelled out. I received no response back from the demon, which was odd. Even though I haven't spoken to him in years, his presence was always there, like a little annoying problem that won't go away. No matter where I look, it's not the familiar mindscape that I grew familiar with. Where were the leaky pipes and the gloomy brick walls? I reach out with my hands trying to feel something, anything, but there's nothing there. I would have tried running, but I'm afraid that I would run straight into the wall or even into a hole, so I slowly move my feet, feeling anything that might be hazardous to me. Seconds pass, turning into minutes, and then I lost track of time. I'm not even sure how long I've been here, but it doesn't look like I'll be leaving anytime soon. Am I just walking in a straight line or am I moving in circles? I don't even know, but I guess only time will tell. Hanabi's POV. It took a little more than an hour for us to make it back to Konoha, but during that entire trip, the toad remained silent, leaving me to the scrutiny of my own thoughts. What was I supposed to think after all of this? That there was some ulterior agenda surrounding Uzumaki. I rolled my eyes at that idea, but I didn't wholeheartedly dismiss it. There was more. There had to be. Why else would the toad say something and then shut up? It just didn't make sense. There was a secret. I knew there was. What could be more of a secret than being the container for the Kyuubi? Yes, I agree, it was once an S-class secret created by the third, but now, it's public knowledge. Everyone in the village knew who he was and what he represented. I racked my brain trying to figure out what else it could be. A spy for another village. Treason. Was he a love child from the council? My eyes widened at the last thought and shook my head. Never in a million years would he be a love child. I actually felt disgusted thinking about that. I let out a small sigh of relief. We reached our destination and I jumped off, glad to be back on the ground. I didn't enjoy the ride. I really didn't. Without warning, the toad bellowed for Tsunade-sama, or rather, Ba-chan. I snorted in response, thinking how disrespectful it was being, but before I could correct him, I saw something fly out from the window, smacking the toad right between the eyes. OWWW, Gamakiki groaned and I held back a snicker. What the hell was that for? Serves you right, I thought. I saw the slug Sanin walk through the doors, yelling at the toad for copying the brat's manners. Her eyes immediately went to the person lying on the ground and she rushed over. I didn't need to be a mind reader like Ino to know what was going through her head. The Sanin fired off a series of rapid questions to the toad and I couldn't help but feel vindicated to see it cower under her gaze. It held up his webbed digits in defense before sputtering that he didn't see anything. Honest Ba-chan, I didn't see anything. He ran off on his own. Ask the Hyuga chick. Crap, stupid, good for nothing toad rat me out. I didn't know why, but from the moment she laid her eyes on me, I no longer felt like a 21-year-old but rather a 5-year-old with her hands caught in the cookie jar. Hanabi, she called out. I looked at her and waited, unsure of what she wants me to do. She performed a basic diagnostic jutsu on him before her head turned and glared at me. Hanabi, come here now, she yelled. I flinched and ran over. I could hear the toad snickering at me, but before I could turn around and glare at it, she yanked me down and I was held face to face with the medic. What exactly happened? She asked. No humor detected in her voice. I quickly told her what happened and what was going on with Uzumaki. I heard her yell out for her assistant, Shizune, to get some medical supplies and come out. The next several moments, there was no other way to describe it. It was just a blur. I saw them cut open his vest and shirt to get to the root of the problem. I could see the bloody mess that was once his chest and I almost threw up. Underneath his shirt were wounds that would have everyone else, but by some miracle, he was still alive. Was it a miracle or an act of God? I couldn't help but notice that his body had scars on it too. Not your basic oops I cut myself scars. No, these scars looked painful, almost as if he went through some kind of sadistic torture. I couldn't help but feel a little sympathy for the man. There's a blockage on his left side, Shizune. Already on it, Tsunade-sama. Why isn't he healing? Kyuubi's chakra should have kicked in by now. The two went back and forth, healing and asking questions as they go. The curiosity got the better of me and I activated my Byakugan. About time, I heard her mutter. Huh? I asked. I turned my head and noticed that Tsunade was looking at me, with a small smile on her face. What do you mean about time? Were you expecting me to do something? She shook her head. I was wondering how long it would take you to come to your senses. My senses? What does she mean by that? She noticed the puzzle expression on my face and continued to explain. You're different, Hanabi. Different from the rest of those villagers. Do you know that you're just like your mother? Strong-spirited and loyal to a fault. Not once did she look the other way when someone was in trouble. Just by being here shows me that you are definitely your mother's daughter, Hanabi. I felt my throat drying up. It was rare to hear someone speak of my mother like that. Even when the members of my clan spoke of her, it was more of a distant, respectful tone. My eyes started to water up, tears threatening to fall down my face if I made even the slightest move. I wanted to tell her no, that she was wrong, but I found myself looking down, unable to bring my eyes up. If only she knew that the only reason why I was here wasn't for such a noble reason. It was because I was curious to see how they would save him. It's not my problem if he lives or dies. But then, how come I feel guilty thinking about it? I wanted to speak up, to tell her that she was wrong about me because I felt like I didn't deserve any of it. It was technically my fault he's like this. Tsunade-sama. I hear myself speaking but I couldn't go any further. She cut me off before I could explain myself. No, Hanabi, you have to understand. This brat is part of my family. Not once has he come to me for help nor did he ever complain about how shitty his life was. She sighed. For the first time, I didn't see a strong woman before me, the once potential candidate for the Hokage position but a tired and weary woman who's exhausted herself saving a loved one. Tsunade-sama. We're losing him. Shizune's frantically cried out. I could see Uzumaki convulsing on the floor, with blood continuing to gush out from his wounds. I heard the Sannin swear before performing another diagnostic jutsu. I watched as a grim look appeared on her face as she moved her hands towards his heart. Was something wrong with his heart? I thought. It couldn't be. I was sure those weapons missed his vital organs. Damn it, Naruto. You've come so far to give up now. Don't you give up, damn it. Fight. Tsunade yelled. Her hands turned a bright green as she started pushing down on his chest. A moment of dread washes over me, wondering if his heart stopped. One look from Shizune confirmed everything. I thought you were better than this, Naruto. Don't let them win. I could see the sweat appearing on her forehead, and even with my Byakugan activated, it was futile. The chakra was indeed making its way to his heart, but it was stopping there, almost as if something was blocking it. I'm able to see it, a small blockage that's preventing his recovery, but what should I do? I bit my lip and growled. It wasn't my duty to save him. Hell, why should I even lend a hand? He's the man responsible for everything. He's just a cold-blooded murderer. But you know it's the right thing to do. There was that little voice of reason in my head. I shook it off. I already knew what I had to do. I didn't have to like it, but I couldn't bring myself to let him die without finding any answers. You better be grateful, Uzumaki. I quietly muttered under my breath as I joined in to assist. I quickly went over to the other side, explaining to the medics what the new problem was. I performed my own jutsu and watched my hands turn green, and I quickly went to work. With my assistance, I could physically see the rapid improvements happening. With the last blockage cleared, I watched in amazement as his chakra flared up, engulfing him in a huge blue light, but of course, no one else could see it but me. I wisely deactivated my bloodline before it blinded me. I hear the medics let out a small but happy sigh, knowing that the worst was over. I flopped down to the ground, feeling exhausted myself. Is he okay, Ba-chan? I hear the toad ask. I totally forgot about him. I thought he disappeared the moment he brought Uzumaki here. I cursed myself at the slip-up. I could see the relief on his face as well. Tsunade merely chuckled, ignoring the nickname. He's going to be just fine, Gamakichi. It's thanks to Hanabi here that he's alive. She pointed to me and expressed her gratitude. I merely waved it off, knowing that I saved a life here today. I just wasn't expecting it to be his. I hear something utter out in a raspy voice. All of us turned our head to the source, seeing Uzumaki slowly open his eyes. I could see everyone smiling at him, glad that he was alive. His eyes went through the motions, looking at each of their faces before landing on mine. Pale white eyes met dull cerulean blue. No words were exchanged between us. Just a look before his eyes closed once more. And I think to myself, what have I gotten myself into? Naruto's Pav, you gave us quite a scare, brat. I know that voice. I mentally cursed myself for my own stupidity for being in this situation. If I were smarter, stronger, I wouldn't be here right now. I wisely kept my eyes closed, unwilling to open them because I knew, from the moment I opened them, I returned to a world that I wasn't ready to face. I know you're awake. Tsunade wouldn't give up. She knew me too well. Or at least as well as she thinks she did. I slowly opened my eyes, knowing where I was. Her mansion. Hi Ba-chan. I quietly greeted her. I gave her a smile but she frowned. I wondered why. I mentally cringed as I watched a look of disapproval appear on her face. What happened out there, Naruto? She asked. I didn't know how to respond. I knew she deserved the truth but I couldn't bring myself to tell her. I decided to tell her that nothing happened out there, with some slight enthusiasm so that she doesn't worry about me. I still remember just how much Jiraiya's death affected her and I couldn't see her go through it again. Not if I could help it. But just how much did she know? I pondered about it. Honestly, nothing happened. I was at the right place at the wrong time. I told her again, for reassurance, hoping that would be enough. I moved my body, sitting up and winced at the slight dull pain. My chest felt sore but then again, it was expected if someone was impaled by weapons. I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to burden her with my troubles. How long was I out? I asked. She told me that I had been out for a few hours but I was expected to make a full recovery. I thanked her for helping me and prepared to move but she put her hand on my shoulders, stopping me from going any further. Relax. I spoke to Kakashi and he agreed that you should take a couple of days off. With pay. I shook my head, telling her that I couldn't take a couple of days off. There were a lot of things to do. Like check in on my apartment. I wondered how much of my stuff had been stolen this time. It always happened. Whenever I left, someone broke in and ransacked the place, causing a mess and throwing trash in. I learned the first time when I left my money in the closet and when I returned, saw that everything was cleaned out. After that, I made sure to never leave anything I consider valuable in there. Not like I own anything worth stealing anymore. I took her hand off my shoulder and gave her a small smile. Thank you for saving me, Ba-chan. I figured it was the least I could do for her troubles of keeping me alive. She laughs. I'm not the one you should thank. I looked at her in confusion. If she didn't save me, then who did? No one else in this village would give me their time of day. In fact, I'm pretty sure none of them would lift a hand to save me if I was bleeding in the middle of the marketplace. It was Hanabi. She saved your life with her Byakugan. If she didn't step in and locate the blockage, you would have been dead by now. I gave her a bewildered look. Really? Hanabi? I carefully studied her face, wondering if she was pulling a joke on me but she wasn't. My eyes widened, not believing the fact that it was really Hanabi Hyuga who saved me. I half expected her to be the one who ended my life. No way. She couldn't have. Maybe this was one of her tricks, trying to get me to socialize with people. I refused to believe that anyone would do something for me just for the hell of it. It's true, Naruto. I believe you owe her your life. She said with a smirk on her face. Oh, I notice your smirk, Ba-chan. I see what you're doing but you don't understand. I can't go and thank her. Right. I answered. I probably won't though. I've already tried in the past, apologizing to the Hyuga clan for the pain that I've caused their family but it was still a fresh wound for them. After seeing Hinata break down and yelling at me, I felt like shit and when she slapped me across the face, I didn't even flinch. I could handle a lot of pain but when the very people you once trusted looked at you with hatred in their eyes, it just hurt. It hurt more than being stabbed in the heart 100 times over. It was the worst feeling in the world and I don't think I can go through that again. Not without breaking my promise to Neji. Did you think I was giving you an option, Naruto? She sweetly asked. I replied with the only answer possible, nope. She nodded her head, indicating that it was the correct choice. I wasn't sure why she was so adamant about me finding Hanabi. It should be obvious to her that she didn't like me. No one did. That's why I'm always alone. After much nagging, I managed to convince her that I'll stop by again tomorrow so she can do a follow-up exam. We both knew that I'll be fine, but I guess it's more for her peace of mind. She gives me a warning to not use any rank of jutsu or above for a week, and I chuckled sadly. I guess that means it's going to be a long week. I shook my head as I walked out of the house, not believing what just happened today. From a basic rescue mission to almost a near-death experience. I swear that things like this only happens to me. Still cursing my luck, I walked out the door, and I swear, Cammy must be laughing at me right now because I saw the last person that I least expected to see today. Hanabi. I felt my own voice muttered out. It didn't take a genius to figure out who Hanabi Hyuga was. From the countless memories and reports that I've read and seen, I already knew. I knew her name, her resident location, the members of her team, and her friends. Some might call it stalkerish, but I call it paranoia. While everyone was moving on with their lives, I spent mine reading reports and detailed biographies on every nin Konoha had in service. I needed to know everybody who was anybody, anyone who was a ninja, from their relatives to their third cousins. I needed to know who I could trust and who I needed to keep an eye out for. Sadly, the list for who I could trust could be counted on one hand, but the list of who I needed to watch out for grew by leaps and bounds after the invasion. People whom I once considered to be my friends turned out to be nothing more than a figment of my imagination. Villagers and ninjas alike treated me like the plague, avoiding and ignoring me, which was a fate worse than death. I grew up alone, despised and barely tolerated, but that changed once I became a chunin. I somehow gained respect among the ranks and people began to rely on me, but then pain showed up looking for me. Countless lives were lost that day. Some lost friends, some lost family. When the battle ended and the dust settled, people called for a scapegoat, demanding someone who they can blame for their pains. The answer was obvious. It had to be the demon of Konoha. It was on that day that the bonds that I once valued over anything shattered like a piece of glass. Physical pain were expected from battles and could be recovered in due time, but emotional pain was a different story. Philosophers pointed out that anyone could live from a physical injury, but to truly hurt your opponent, you strike at their emotional side. Destroy the things that they hold dear, and only when you do that, do you really claim victory over them. For me, seeing everything that I worked so hard for to just disappear from my eyes hurt 100 times more than having a chidori rammed through my chest. No matter how much I tried asking for forgiveness, it was futile. I lost many things that day: a brother, a father, and a family. The shame that I carried inside, the burden that I carried on my shoulders, it would have been worth it if I could be forgiven for my sins, but they wouldn't give me their forgiveness. Who could blame them? They were people who lost a loved one. He made me swear on my honor that I would be there for his family. I still remember the look on his face when my hand impaled itself through his chest. I recall myself screaming and waking up from my nightmare the moment it went through. Lost in the bloodlust of the Kyuubi, I was attacking anything that moved. Enemy and comrade alike. I knew it was dangerous to give into the demon's influence, but I lost control. Jiraiya lost his life defending me, and Neji lost his life saving me. I could still see Neji's face, grimacing from the pain, but he was also smiling at me as he closed his eyes, almost as if he knew this was going to happen. I couldn't stop my body from shaking, mortified by my actions. I expected him to curse me with his dying breath, but what he said that day will be forever engraved into my memories. I don't blame you, Naruto. He spoke in a quiet voice, his strength fleeting from his body. Don't blame yourself for this. I'm finally out of my cage. I still remember the feeling on my right arm, the warm blood oozing from his body and steadily dripping down my forearm. I wanted to apologize, but it came out as a stutter. Shaking like a fresh rookie from his first, I wanted to pull my arm out and perform a medical jutsu to somehow undo my mistake, but I couldn't. He wouldn't let me. It's okay, old friend. We're the same. While my journey ends here, yours is just beginning. Hanabi. Please look over her. Naruto. His eyes stared at me with an intense fire burning in them, and I agreed, my body still convulsing from my earlier actions. I could tell that a great burden was released from him when he passed away, smiling. I still find it strange that it was her that Neji spoke about and not anyone else. Not his other cousin, Hinata, the heiress to the clan, nor Tenten, his girlfriend. It was Hanabi, and that itself was very odd. To this very day, no one knew the true story. Everyone had their own version, but it was unanimous that it was Whoed Neji in cold blood. Not once have I been given the chance to explain my side of the story, not like they would believe me anyway. I was just a crackpot fool with a demon inside of him. Even now, I still watched over Hanabi. Of course, it would have to be done from a distance because of the circumstances, but I won't let anything happen to her. I can't. I watched her grow from a chunin and mature into a seasonal junin. A little rough on the edges, but like any other diamond, it takes time to polish it into a valuable gem. I won't admit this to anyone, but I pulled a few strings that got her on Anko's team. God knows what would happen if someone else trained her. I shudder to think if it was Kurenai or Asuma. What a waste of talent if Hanabi was left to someone like them. No, she needed someone who won't be intimidated by her status or personality. I needed someone who didn't take shit from anybody. Somebody like Anko. Kakashi thought I was insane for giving the Hyuga princess to Anko, but in the end, I managed to convince him. Anko was someone I trusted, and I knew that despite her personality, she was one heck of a friend. Her training might be torture and her attitude might make you want to yourself, but her results were nothing short of spectacular. After a few weeks, I could see the changes in Hanabi, and I knew I made the right choice. So why does it hurt so much when I see her standing there? Hanabi's pav. I walked up to him, stomping my feet as I went, hoping that I would at least intimidate him, but instead, he stood his ground, his eyes never leaving mine. Even at my height, I found myself looking up at him, something I never thought would happen. Hanabi. I heard him whispering my name from the distance. His voice sounded fragile, and I felt my resolve crumbling away. No, I must stand strong. I can't allow him to change my mind. This wasn't fair. He caused everyone so much pain, and yet, he had the nerve to play the sympathy card. He does not get that right. I snarled in my mind. Not after he'd Neji Nisan. Thank you. The words came out like a whisper in the wind, and I had to blink several times to make sure that I heard him correctly. What? I asked, gesturing him to repeat it. For saving me. Thank you. He replied. I wondered what was going through his mind. Was he being truthful here? I tilted my head a bit, to get a better read on him. As a Hyuga, we possess the ability to read facial expressions and determine if a subject is lying or not. It was a skill that the clan passed on to us. Ninjas have to understand what was underneath the surface, but for a Hyuga, we have to be able to read beyond the surface. To see what's really hiding under their mask. I never fully understood what their words meant until Anko took me to her job and we watched Ibiki interrogate a foreign ninja. I would be lying if I didn't feel nauseated, but thankfully, I was able to get a read on the ninja before the man had a chance to demonstrate his techniques. I've stared into the face of many people, friends, comrades, and enemies, and they all had one thing in common. They had facial expressions that defined the emotions they were feeling, but not him. He was different from the rest. I couldn't get a read on him, which troubled me. Staring at him felt like I was looking into the abyss. There was no beginning, nor was there an end. It frightened me to think that there was such a man whose soul was as dark as his, but I guess that was expected for someone who committed so many sins. Forget it, Uzumaki. Just forget it, I answered, tearing my eyes away from him. Don't think that I did it for my benefit. I didn't save you because I wanted to. It was because Anko asked me. This doesn't change anything between us. I saw his shoulders droop slightly and he sighed. I see. Well, regardless of the case, I apologize for being an inconvenience to you. Damn that bastard. Was he really just going to say that and walk away? I spun around and grabbed him by his arm. What the hell, Uzumaki? You think that by saving my life, your debt to us has been repaid? No way. Who the hell do you think you are? I continued yelling at him, not caring if I was in front of Tsunade's place or in front of the goddamn Hokage. I don't accept your damn apology. You think that after all this, everything would just go away? You made my life a living hell. Everything's changed because of you. Everything's different because of what you did. Everything was because of you. I didn't release my grip, merely tightening it and forcing him to look at me while I yell at him. Just seeing him stand there, unfazed by all of this, caused me to pull him down and slapped him across the face. How dare you? The stinging sensation on my palm, my increased breathing and the shocked look across his face. Yup. It was worth it. Don't you dare walk away from me, Uzumaki. I growled, ignoring the way he was now looking at me. I didn't even care that you destroyed half of Konoha. I didn't even care that you have the goddamn Kyuubi inside of you, but when you hurt the people I value the most, that's when you cross the line. I ate a fist back and sent it flying, catching him on his right side. You made my older sister cry. You made me cry, you bastard. I then rammed my knee into his stomach, causing him to bend over. You'd Neji Nisan, the one person who treated me like a normal person. I yelled, cupping my hands together and brought it down on his back, concentrating chakra into that attack. I watched as he dropped to his knees, clutching his stomach and wincing from the last attack. I huffed, trying to catch my breath. You lost the right to apologize to us, Uzumaki. We will never accept your apology for as long as we live. Street. Op. Stop. I heard his faint voice. I watched as he slowly pushed himself up. His eyes were still the same, dull cerulean blue. Letting my anger go, I tackled him to the ground, hitting him with my bare fists, anywhere and everywhere. I saw him raise both of his arms to defend himself, but that didn't stop me. I continued pounding him, yelling at him and getting my frustrations out. Why can't you just disappear? I shouted between breaths. Before I know it, the bastard slipped out from the assault and flipped it around, with me pinned to the ground by his arms. I struggled for a bit, trying to force my way out of here, but he was a lot stronger than he let on. I couldn't budge or shift my body weight. All I could do was look into his eyes. I'm so sorry, Hanabi. I never meant for this to happen. I never meant for it to happen. You have to believe me. I stopped struggling for a bit, wondering what I should do. I could tell that he noticed my hesitation and continued. If I could, I would take it all back in a heartbeat. I'm truly sorry, Hanabi. Okay. I believe you, I replied, relaxing my body. Naruto's POV. Okay. I believe you. I felt her relaxing her muscles, which was a good sign, so I loosened my grip on her, which was a mistake. The moment that I lowered my guard, she came alive, yanking her right arm from my grip and slugged me again on the right side. I staggered back slightly, caught by surprise. Damn, that girl has a nasty right hook. I thought to myself. I moved my jaw in a circular motion, making sure she didn't break it. Hanabi was immediately on her feet, her eyes blazing with a fire. Come on, Uzumaki. Get up and fight. Or are you afraid of one little girl? She taunted. I shook my head, disagreeing with her. We don't have to fight, Hanabi. Just listen to me about what I have to say. Whoa. Fast. My eyes widened at the surprise attack. Anko must have stepped up the training again because last time I checked up on her, she was nowhere near as fast. I continued moving back, avoiding the punches as she threw them. I swayed left and right, making sure that she wasn't able to predict my next move. Despite all of the shit that life has thrown my way, I have never raised my hand in fighting back. I couldn't. Even now, with Hanabi blindly charging at me, I couldn't help but feel normal. I've forgotten what it felt to spar with another person. I've forgotten what it felt like to talk to another human being. I decided that during the time Hanabi tried to strike me down, I would explain myself. Sidestepping slightly, I avoided a drop kick and spun around, my back against hers. Neji was an honorable man, Hanabi. He wouldn't want to see you act this way. Shut up, she angrily replied, throwing an elbow to my face. I raised my palm and pushed myself away, blocking her blow and pushed her away, putting some distance between us. Do you want to know what he said? I asked her. How do I know you're not lying about it? Maybe you're making up some bullshit so that you can atone for your sins. She shot back, her eyes showing a bit of hesitation. I could tell that she was weighing her options, so I do the next best thing. I made the choice for her. Then me. She looked at me with widened eyes. What? I nodded to her, closed my eyes and spread my hands apart. I'm serious, Hanabi. Ifing me means making you feel better, then so be it. I hate seeing someone like you suffer for a mistake that I did. You wanted to avenge Neji's death. Then me. My eyes were still closed and anything could happen, but I trusted her enough to do what was right. I had to. If it meant that she was going to juken me to death, then I'll accept the fact, but that didn't mean I don't have faith in her. When Neji told me to watch over her, I didn't know why he said her name specifically, but now, I think I do. He probably knew, deep down, that she was different from the rest. He was a great man, Hanabi. One of the best and one of the few that considered me a friend to the very end. I can honestly tell you that the last thing he said to me before passing away was that he thought of you. Closure. I knew it from the moment I saw her yelling at me. She didn't hate me for what I did. She knew firsthand just what kind of danger a ninja faced. All she wanted was closure and no one gave it to her. I didn't get a chance to say anything else when she tackled me to the ground again, but this time, instead of pounding me, she cried on my chest. For the first time in my life, I didn't know what to do. I was unfamiliar with crying females, so all I did was just lie there while she cried. I could hear her sobbing, but she never released the grip she had on my shirt. I didn't dare open my eyes, afraid to see something that I didn't want to see. There was a small sinking feeling in my stomach, wondering if I had died, would anyone shed any tears for me? Would my death affect anyone like how Neji did? I doubt it. I'm sorry. I quietly said. I know I hurt you and your family a lot, and I'll do anything I can to make it better. I swear, Hanabi. Just shut up, please. She replied, hiccuping from her emotional outburst. It made me feel like shit, just seeing someone like her weeping for something that I did. I finally dared to open my eyes and saw that her head was buried into my chest, and I couldn't help but wonder just how special this girl really was. Maybe it was time I had a talk with Anko. Hanabi's Pav. He's a self-righteous, self-loathing bastard. I hated him for it. He gave me the chance to take revenge for the pain that he caused me. He gave me a chance to make it right for everyone, so why didn't I take it? He even left himself wide open, but my heart wouldn't go for it. I didn't him because I wasn't like the rest of them. I wasn't air. I clenched my fist, and at that moment, the tears that I was holding back broke loose. Against everything that my mind was telling me, my body tackled him to the ground and cried. He was the only connection that I had left to Neji Nisan, and I couldn't let it go, no matter what happened. I could feel his body tensing up, but I didn't care. I just needed him to be here right now. It didn't matter anymore. It really didn't. All I wanted was for someone to tell me what happened that day, and finally, someone did. I knew that Uzumaki didn't exactly live the lavish lifestyle as everyone else did. I knew that. I knew that he didn't have any friends. I knew that. What I didn't know was that behind everything else, was a fragile man who, despite all the hatred, despite all the rumors, despite everything, was a fragile man who was trying to fix the wrong he had done. I might not have seen it at first, blinded by my own ignorance, but now, I kind of did. All the pain that I suffered was probably something that couldn't even compare to what he went through, but it was still there, so fresh in my heart that I can't just forgive him yet. I needed time to think this through. I'm not asking for your forgiveness just yet, Naruto suddenly said. I don't think you're ready to give it, but I hope that in time, you will. I still hate you, I replied, but I know about you, from the stories that Neji Nisan used to tell me. He would tell me of the things you guys did back in the day, during missions and all that. That's why it hurt so much to see you take him away from me. I didn't know where that came from. I wasn't even sure what made me open up to him, but just lying here, next to him, felt so natural, and it frightened me. Urging my body to let go, I pushed myself up from him and noticed that he was staring at me. I felt myself blush and cursed. I looked away and pretended to dust myself off. I wasn't going to let him get the satisfaction of seeing me like this. Ba-chan is going to me, he muttered. I turned around and saw that he was looking at a window and rubbed the back of his head. Ah crap, I'll never hear the end of it. I stifled a giggle and walked up to him. I poked him on the chest with my finger. Don't think this makes us even, Uzumaki. He gave me a sad look and nodded. I know. With that, he bowed his head and started to walk away, giving me one last look before disappearing. Just who are you, Naruto? I whispered to myself. As each second passed, I could feel my heart literally breaking into smaller pieces, like shattered glass from a broken mirror. I quietly watched from afar as Ba-chan stood there, staring at the grave. She came here every year, always standing alone, letting the tears fall from her face. I know she invited me to come with her this year, but I didn't think it was a good idea. The message was clear: a demon wasn't welcomed on the grounds of heroes. I could sense the Anbu hiding in the shadows, watching for any sudden movement. The very thought of a demon stepping into the graveyard was sacrilegious. The council knew just how important he was to me, and they made an effort to take it away. Just like everything else I cherished. Ba-chan came here every year, at this exact time, because on this day, at this time, it was when Jiraiya passed away. No matter what she did, she couldn't save him. I could tell that she still blamed herself, but in reality, it wasn't her fault. It was mine. He died because of me, because of who I was and what I represented. It was because of me that Ba-chan had to go through this kind of pain again. It was that pain that drove her away from Konoha in the first place. Everyone knew the stories about Tsunade, the legendary Sannin who left the village after the deaths of her brother Nawaki and her lover, Dan. Seeing another person whom she greatly cared for die in front of her eyes must have torn her up inside. To others, Jiraiya was a name that people came to respect as he was part of the legendary Sannin team, but to her, he was just more than a ninja. He was her knight. He stuck with her through thick and thin, and everyone knew it. You didn't threaten Tsunade without answering to Jiraiya. A knight to a princess. Just like the fairy tales. Even after his death, I didn't tell her that Jiraiya was in love with her. I just couldn't. I knew it wasn't the silly kind of love where it just came and went. What he had for her was real. The kind that you saw in storybooks with a prince and princess. I did him to see her going into the arms of another man, but he knew it was for the best. He sacrificed his happiness for hers because to him, she was everything, and if she was happiest with Dan, then he wouldn't stand in their way. I see Ba-chan looking around, her eyes scanning the area as if she was looking for me. I clenched my fists, knowing that I should be out there with her, paying my respects to Ero Sennin. I thought you had balls, Gaki. Didn't you brag to me that there wasn't anything that you couldn't do? I could hear him mocking me and I narrowed my eyes. Uzumaki Naruto didn't just have balls. He had balls of steel. Let the council come after me, I'll show them what a true demon looked like. With a quick shunshin, I appeared next to Ba-chan, giving her a small smile. I was wondering if you were going to show up, brat. She said, slapping me on the back of the head. Didn't you know it's impolite to make a lady wait? You're well past the age of what you would be considered a lady, Ba-chan. Earning me a fist to the head. Thank God for my healing, or else she would have left a fist-shaped bruise in my skull. Both of us closed our eyes and bowed our heads, paying our respects to our fallen friend. You know they're watching you, right? I heard her mutter to me. I snorted, let them watch me. Anything they can dish, I can return it tenfolds. I answered her a little bit loudly, letting them know that I was aware of their presence. Within moments, they vanished and I couldn't sense any of their chakra signatures anymore. Probably reporting this incident to their superiors. Drink with me, brat. She pulled out 2 jugs of sake from the ground and took a deep gulp. I wanted to shake my head, telling her that I didn't like the taste of alcohol, but on this day, I couldn't bring myself to just say no. I easily took the jug from her hand and drank like a pro, showing her that even now, I could hold my own against her. After my drink, I poured some on his grave, knowing that this was his favorite brand of sake. Enjoy it, Ero Sennin, I whispered. God knows you won't find this in heaven. I could hear his faint voice in the background, belittling me for giving him a small amount. I quietly chuckle, wondering how insane I was, to be hearing the voice of my dead master. Are you going to run and hide forever, Naruto? Tsunade asked after taking a couple of long sips. I was wondering when that conversation would come up. It had been an unspoken topic since that day. I told her I wasn't ready to discuss it and she left it alone. I guess even the greatest medic had a limit. I tilted my head to the side, wondering what would be the best way to answer her. She was looking at me with those calm, decisive eyes of hers, the ones that would have made her a great cage. Who's hiding, Ba-chan? I cheekily responded. I never hide from anyone, you know that. She let out a loud laugh and pointed her finger at me. Then tell me, brat, do you ever plan on seeing that Hyuga again? I know what you guys did outside my yard. I may not be as strong as you, but did you forget that I was once a candidate for the cage position? I didn't think so, so spill it. I sheepishly rubbed the back of my head. You saw that, huh? I gave her a small smile in return. I didn't mean to do that, you know. I apologized like you wanted, but somehow, it didn't turn out to be as simple as I planned. Ba-chan snorted, rolling her eyes at me. Spare me of your bullshit lies, Naruto. We're sitting here in front of his grave. This is the first time since his death that you're here with us, so why don't you drop your mask for one night? You're like a closed book, Naruto. Damn it, I can't even get a read on you anymore. She sharply replied, cutting off my response. I know you still blame yourself for what happened, but don't you think it's time that you let go? To stop living in the past and take your step into the present so you can live your life for the future. I hate to see you like this. I thought we were family, Naruto. Doesn't that mean anything to you? Me, you, Jiraiya and Shizune. We're family, Naruto. Whether you like it or not, you're always going to be part of it. Don't think I don't know about the missions that you're taking either. She answered, a warning in her voice. I can't, Ba-chan. I replied, tearing my gaze away from her eyes. You don't understand. Why are we dwelling on me when we should be honoring the man that we both lost? Because the man we're honoring would be slapping you across the head for the way you're acting. She retorted, taking another long sip of her drink. I know, your life has been shitty, Naruto, but you know it doesn't have to be like this. So what if they see you as the demon Scorn, the scumbag that lives in the village, the waste of space that should have died? I thought you were Uzumaki Naruto, the man who was going to be the next Hokage. I let out a small chuckle. The man that you once remembered is nothing but a fleeting memory, Ba-chan. Don't let it get to your head. I don't think he ever existed in the first place. We both know who he was. I thought back to the times when life was just so simple, where I wasn't known for anything but a demon brat. I wished that I could go back into a time where the villagers just ignored me and no one knew my secret. I wished that this was just all a dream, and I was living in a nightmare. You know what Ero Sennin used to say? I asked her. Probably something perverted. Tsunade snorted. I noticed that it was an automatic response, from the way she blushed and looked away. She took a minute before nodding her head. Yeah, definitely something perverted. I laughed, knowing that he would have said something perverted, but in rare cases, he was always the sage, handing good advice when people need it the most. No, not this time, Ba-chan. He used to say that before we learn to walk, we must learn to crawl. In order for us to understand each other, we first need to understand ourselves. She raised her eyebrows, shocked at what I was saying. What? It's true. Come on, he wasn't always perverted. Seeing her roll her eyes, I merely smiled. He told me that when we were traveling back to Konoha, after we completed that mission to find Akatsuki. The man, despite his perverted tendencies and his attempt in corrupting me, knew the right things to say at the right time. We sat there, exchanging stories of the man, and for the first time in a while, I felt like this was paradise. There was no hatred, no angry snarls, just us in this plot of land, where no one would ever disturb us. It felt nice. After an hour, the 2 bottles of sake disappeared, mostly into her system, and judging by the way she was slurring, she was quite drunk. I quickly summoned a toad and guided her home. I watched as the toad gave me the evil eye, promising me pain the next time I summoned him. I held my hands up in protest, my eyes telling him that it wasn't my fault, but we both know that I owed him some kind of reward for this task. So you're still here watching over me, huh, Ero Sennin? I whispered. No words were exchanged, no actions from the beyond, just silence from the cemetery. Closing my eyes, I found myself concentrating on the area, drawing in the powers of nature, and then I opened my eyes, the feeling of the sage power coursing through my veins. Ever since I became a sage, I was able to sense things that normal people couldn't sense, and this was one of them. I had the ability to sense spirits because, believe it or not, they were a part of nature. They inhabited the things that we choose to ignore, but as a sage, I was able to know when they were near, and while I might not know who that spirit was, it gave me comfort knowing that I wasn't alone. What should I do with Hanabi, Ero Sennin? She knows about everything, and Anko didn't really help when I went to speak to her. I thought back to that meeting with Anko, and about after 20 plates of dango, I was in no mood in going back to her for information. The only thing that I learned from that situation was that Anko was a sneaky and conniving woman. Not only did she score a free yet expensive meal from me, she also had me agree to be her sparring partner for the next month or so, helping her improve just in time for some kind of Junin competition that the Hokage was sponsoring. It also didn't help that the only thing I learned about Hanabi was that she was like her name, a firecracker. I didn't receive any further helpful information, and it annoyed me to see her with that little smirk on her face. The way that she was lecturing me as I was her underling. Live and learn, little Naru-chan. It's time that you learn to see past the hurdle that you built for yourself and experience life like a normal person. If you want to learn more about your little girlfriend, I suggest you come to our normal training field in 2 days, and maybe, if you can, please me, I'll tell you a little more. Stupid Anko. Stupid dangos. 2 days later. Luckily for me, the training field that Anko suggested was really close to the forest of death. I was able to wake up early to catch breakfast while ensuring that I was on time. I shuddered to think about the times when she nearly skewered Kakashi when he was late during his Junin days. It was a historical day that will be forever remembered because not only did the future Hokage almost lost his 2 boys, every male within the vicinity of those 2 cringed and simultaneously moved their hands to cover their parts. By the time I reached the training field, I realized that Anko wasn't here yet, but there was a note attached to a tree stump. To my little Naru-chan, I know how much you wanted my company today and to see my sexy body in all of its glorious form, but unfortunately, due to some unique and totally non-coincidental circumstances, I cannot be here today, but I'm still holding you to your promise. Don't give me that face, my little Naru-chan, I didn't bail on you. You see, I was supposed to compete in the Junin competition not as the primary contestant but as the partner. Imagine my surprise when my partner was none other than your girlfriend, Hanabi. You don't have to thank me, kiddo. I know how much of a favor I'm doing you, so I expect some form of repayment next time. Anyway, have fun training and remember, you don't need to thank me. The one, the only, the sexy and single Anko. I narrowed my eyes, not believing that she had the nerve of pulling something like this on me. I could see it now. I'll tie her up good and then torture her with dropping dangos onto the floor, one by one, and then I'll step on them slowly. God damn it. I muttered out loud. I hate you, Anko. I should have stuffed you full of dangos and watched you explode from the inside out. Tossing the note aside, I sensed a chakra signature coming closer to the field. I sighed, knowing that it was my supposed training partner. I see her walking onto the field, confusion written across her face. Hello, Hanabi. I greeted her in a friendly manner. Half of me hoped that she wouldn't be too angry at me. The other half was wondering what the hell we were going to do. Ever since that day, I was still unsure of where we stood. It felt so awkward between us. I wondered if she still resented me for what I did. She continued watching me with her pale eyes, wondering what the hell was going on. What are you doing here, Uzumaki? This is a private training field. I quickly explained to her that despite the good intentions that Anko had, I was her new partner for the tournament. It fascinated me to watch how fast Hanabi's reaction went from confusion to anger to murderous look in just 3 seconds. I'll her for this. I let her rant for a bit, knowing that if she didn't let it out, she would take it out on me, and I didn't want to be on the receiving end of it. I unconsciously moved my jaw, remembering the power she had in her hook shots. I took a step back, seeing her pace around, moving her hands. Dressed in black workout pants and a white tank top, that outfit really brought out her curves. If it really bothers you, I could leave. I answered. You still have enough time to find a new partner. Do you even know what the Junin competition is? She asked, looking at me like I was a moron. I'm just glad she stopped her pacing, it was making me feel uncomfortable as it is. I shook my head, not really. I'm not really in touch with the community anymore. Truth be told, I had been out of the loop on everything. From the missions that people went on to their personal lives. Even if I wanted to know, No one would tell me and I didn't want to bother Kakashi for information. It seemed childish for me to go to him every day so he could update me on what my former friends and comrades were doing. I lived alone most of my life, depending on no one but myself. I did it before, I could certainly do it again. She sighed, rubbing her temple. It's a competition authorized by the Hokage for anyone with the level of Junin and above. It was his way of allowing ninjas to show off their skills while bringing the village closer. The catch is that you must partner up with someone in the village in order to be eligible, and the winners will receive a reward equivalent to an S-class ranked mission and personalized training from the Hokage himself. I let out a small whistle, knowing just how much of a prize that was. For ninjas, money wasn't the real prize. It was the personalized training from the Hokage himself. To receive one-on-one training from the Kakashi, the copycat ninja, the man who knew over 1,000 jutsus, I couldn't imagine a better motivation to win than that. So what do you want to do now? From what I understand, you have two options. You either make the best out of this situation and start training, or you can tell me to walk away and you'll find a new partner. She bit her lip, contemplating on the best option. Let's say, hypothetically, I was to choose you as a partner, Uzumaki. What can you do? Aren't you just a chunin? She asked while she walked around me, sizing me up. Since when does rank matter, Hanabi? I replied, my eyes following her movement. But for argument's sake, hypothetically, even though I'm a chunin, would you rank me as a 1? Given what you know about me, that is. Let's just say that if I had to, I could give Kakashi a run for his money. She narrowed her eyes, judging if I was telling the truth or not. God, I hated when the Hyugas did that. It felt like I was being violated in some sort of way. You think you can last against the Hokage? The man who was trained by the Yondaime himself. It didn't seem like it when I pounded you to the ground. She said, smirking on her face. Maybe you're over-exaggerating to compensate for a little package. Oh dear God, she picked up some of Anko's more quirky personality traits. I shook my head, refusing to take the bait. I could see that she learned a great deal from the snake mistress, but this was one of the things that I had hoped she wouldn't have learned. And did she just mention the beating she gave me the other day? I guess there was no sense in stepping slowly into the water anymore. Fine, two can play it this way. Anko might be good at seduction, who plays with her personality, but for someone like me, who easily hid behind a mask, it was nothing more than a child's play. I guess it was time I show her the difference between the two of us. While she was still moving around me, I pulled off a shunshin, disappearing from her field of vision and reappearing behind her. I put my arms around her waist and moved closer to her ear. It's not my little package that you should be worrying about. I whispered, you should worry about what that little package might do to your little body. Hanabi. I felt her shiver from my touch and then I took a step back. Hypothetically speaking, you would have been dead, Hanabi. Letting me get behind you and whispering behind your ear is the same thing as an enemy slitting your throat in a fight. She quickly spun around and glared at me, fighting hard to keep that blush down but failing miserably. Adequate, but that doesn't prove anything, Uzumaki. You're nothing but rumors. Lies have been slandered against you. You're not exactly the most popular guy in the village and your reputation is non-existent. The question now becomes, why should I trust you? Because there's no one else that you can trust but me. I answered. I don't fight for fame or money. I fight for those around me. Then prove it to me, Uzumaki. If you're going to be my partner for the competition, you have to be better than Anko. You have to be someone I can absolutely trust. If you're finally done talking, how about we see just how good you really are? I smirked at her. Bring it on, princess. As quickly as I said that, she slipped into her taijutsu stance, the renowned gentle fist of the Hyuga clan. Little did the princess know, I was no stranger to her style. I had worked with Neji before and I could say that even though I couldn't see the Tenketsu points, I was able to match the Hyuga prodigy in a fight. Let's see how well she matched up against him. Don't make this too easy now, Uzumaki. At least defend yourself. Hanabi replied in a mocking tone. I was wondering why Anko chose you out of all people to replace her. She should have chosen someone like Lee. She's just taunting me now. I fought her mentor plenty of times in the past and it seemed like the student has definitely learned from the master. After another failed attempt at taunting me, she took a step in, feeling the situation. Good. So she wasn't brash, she was thinking like a Hyuga. I watched her, slowly inching forward, but her guard remained up. I took a step back as she inched forward. My guard was still down. I don't sense any hostility from you. Why is that, Hanabi? How about, if you win, I'll tell you. A coy reply from her. I couldn't help but grin. Despite the feelings that we had between us, this was going to be interesting. Why don't I just save you the time and tell you how this ends, huh? She glared at me and thrust her palm forward, aiming for my shoulder. Just as quickly as she did that, I pushed my left arm forward, creating a stalemate in the attack. Seeing how easily I countered her attack, she twisted her body and performed her next attack, which I easily followed. I could see where her gentle fist taijutsu style started and how she incorporated Anko's style into her own. She's getting a little testy now. Every move she made, I was able to meet it and win. I could tell it was pissing her off. Hake Rokujuyansho. She cried out. I smirked and mirrored her exact move. Many hours of training with Neji had taught me one thing about their style. I'm the only exception to their rule. No matter how many times I had my Tenketsu points closed, I was able to reopen them. It was painful and I learned quickly that it wasn't something I wanted to do often. I had to learn to adapt to their style and soon, I was mirroring his exact moves. Matching him blow for blow. Her blows were quick and they were increasing slowly. I could tell that she spent hours into her training, but I was no slouch. I trained myself to exhaustion every night, only stopping when I blacked out. Ero Senin was right. No matter how many times people betrayed me, the only thing that would never leave me were these fists. You look a bit surprised, Hanabi. I replied, a hint of innocence in my voice. Are we just about finished here? No, you bastard. She snarled. Eat this. Seals. Her hands breezed through a good number, before ending in tiger. I didn't need her to announce the jutsu, I already knew what it was. Before she could even start saying the words Kaden, my hands automatically went for a sweetened jutsu to counteract hers. It didn't matter if she was aiming for a fireball or creating some kind of fire hazardous attack, my hands were already on the last seal before she could even finish hers, releasing enough water for the Sushoha jutsu. I had to admit, it might have been a bit of an overkill. I guess even after all these years, I still don't know the meaning of holding back. Her fire dragon met a huge whirlpool of water, vaporizing and neutralizing her attack completely. She stared at me, wide-eyed before shaking off her surprise. I had to give it to Hanabi. She didn't stand there gawking like a rookie, she immediately understood the situation that she was in and she knows there will always be time for questions later. We've been going at this for the last 20 minutes, neither one of us giving an inch. I've been doing nothing but blocking her attacks, not once retaliating against her. I needed to study her style firsthand, so I knew what I was working with. To be honest, her form wasn't bad and she had some power behind it, but she needed work. Are you ever going to fight back? She snarled, trying to land a hit on me. I could tell I was annoying her. Every punch she threw, I slapped her hand away. If you looked closely enough, you could see little red marks on the top of her hands. There was the fire in her eyes, determined to at least land a blow on me. Nope, I cheekily replied. My mission isn't to win Hanabi. It's to show you how effective I am in a combat scenario. You wanted to see how good I am, so I'm showing it to you. She tried to catch me off guard by twisting her body, feinting an elbow to my face, but I spun with her, moving as she was moving. Her elbow hit nothing but air, however her main goal was her right fist, hidden behind the movement. She was good, I'll give her that. If it was someone else, she would have caught me by surprise, but this was me. I trained myself to expect the unexpected, to be ready for anything. Hake Kusho, the Hyuga princess yelled out. She thrust her palm out from behind, knowing that I was there, but I was already one step ahead of her. The moment her attack connected, the body that she came in contact with disappeared into thin air. That was when I made my move. Her eyes widened from the surprise. I moved behind her, using the distraction to finish the match. By the time she noticed what happened, she would have been dead. I put my left arm around her body while my right arm went for her throat. Seems like deja vu all over again. You let your guard down, Hanabi. That'll cost you in a real battle. She remained speechless, unable to comprehend what just happened. Just because you thought you had the upper hand doesn't mean you always do. We're ninjas. We specialize in deception and stealth. If I were an enemy, you would have been dead a long time ago. When did you pull off that cage bunshin? She quietly asked. I raised my elbow and released her. I just let you go, and the first thing that you ask is how I pulled off that cage bunshin. I responded, humor present in my voice. You're not going to yell or hit me. Ah. She blushed again and looked away. Interesting, why was she blushing like that? No. You won fair and square. I rubbed the back of my head. You were fighting a cage bunshin the entire time, Hanabi. I made the swap after the first time I whispered into your ear. From what I learned from my clone's memories, I could tell that she was pretty good as a Junin, but she still had some stuff to work on, like her taijutsu style. It was too stiff. She may have learned some stuff from Anko, but her primary style from her clan was still there. Another thing was her chakra reserves. I might have to do something about that to build it up some more. If it was a ninjutsu match, she would have lost a long time ago. I watched her expression closely. To me, the way one reacted via facial expressions and body movements meant a lot more than words. She stood there, slowly coming to terms with the fight, and lowered her head. You were right, Uzumaki. Rank means nothing. An apology. I held my hands up in defense, signaling that I didn't want her to apologize, but she continued on. I underestimated you, and even though you tried to warn me, I failed to see it. I might be a Junin, but today, I acted like a genin. I would be honored if you would still consider being my partner for this competition. Are you sure, Hanabi? I'm giving you one last chance to reconsider what you're doing. You're asking me, the demon of Konoha, to enter a competition with you to go against other Junin-ranked ninjas. Which I might add, really hates me, so I would expect some dirty tactics and such. Do I look like a pushover, Uzumaki? She shot back. I'm Hanabi Hyuga, and I'll be damned if I let anyone tell me what to do. Let them come at me, I'll just gut them like a fish. I let out a chuckle, which erupted into a full-blown laughter. She was so much like Anko that it was unbelievable. I held out my hand, and she took it, gripping mine tightly. For the first time in a while, I smiled at her and she beamed at me. I'll be honored, Hanabi.